Overclocking is a waste of time and money. At one point or another, we all get curious about overclocking, trying to eke out that little bit of extra performance left on the table. We buy CPUs and motherboards that can overclock well, just in case one day we want to try it out. And don't forget, you have to buy a cooler to keep those temps under control. Go into any comment thread about a PC build, and you're guaranteed to find a guy saying, don't forget a K-series CPU just in case you want to overclock it. Oh, that motherboard isn't good for overclocking either. Make sure to get this one. Welcome to the channel. I'm Jared, and you're watching JTech Workshop, and I'm looking to make some PC enthusiasts mad today. I can already tell this one's gonna get hate. I can hear it now. Well, actually, I was able to get 200 more points in Time Spy with my overclock. So checkmate. Tell me about the huge difference in frame rate you got from those extra points on that benchmark. Overclocking will cost you money in a couple different ways. Increased component costs and increased energy costs because now your computer's going to be sucking down more power. And not to mention the extra heat you're going to be generating out, you're going to be sweating in the summer. Though I guess in the winter it might be nice to have a heater you can play on. And on top of all that, there's always the risk of damaging your components if you do it incorrectly. When it's all said and done, overclocking your CPU and GPU might get you 5, maybe 10 extra frames per second. But is it really worth it? Nobody's doubling their frame rate off of a good overclock. The companies that are making these parts aren't leaving that much performance hidden away from you. If you're struggling to play a game anyway, sure, those extra frames might help, but they're going to take you from a bad experience to a slightly less bad experience. You aren't getting into high refresh territory or being able to crank up your settings to high or ultra or whatever. But I was once like you, painstakingly overclocking my video card to try and get the bleeding edge of performance out of my system. Dude, it's all a conspiracy. The companies don't want you to know that they all perform the same. They just intentionally hinder the performance to make you buy the higher tier. But the real performance is in the graphics card, man. You just gotta learn how to unlock it, like you unlock your mind. I spent literal hours tuning that card, tallying up every benchmark score, bumping it up just that little bit extra every time. Here we go again. I dealt with crashes nonstop, and when I thought it was stable enough to play a game, I'd launch it, and it'd crash again. When I finally did get a stable overclock, I remember firing up Sleeping Dogs, which is an excellent game by the way, and the frame rate was exactly the same as before. The same dips, the same stutters, nothing changed. If I hadn't sat through that overclocking process myself, I wouldn't have believed anything changed. The heck, it's the same. Oh my god, it's so bad. Nothing's different. I reverted it back because I was getting insane heat out of the back of my computer, and I never thought about overclocking again. It wasn't until Cyberpunk 2077 came out and overclocking snuck back into my mind. My system at the time was a Ryzen 1600X with a GTX 1080, and I was trying to play it at 1440p. I had to keep everything on medium to low settings, and the frame rate was all over the place. It got a little bit better when I turned on that resolution scaling, but it looked terrible. So after messing with it a little bit, I decided to try overclocking again. I figured I'd go all out, overclock the video card, the memory, and the CPU. I set aside some time one night and I got to work. I was able to eke out 3.9 gigahertz on the CPU. I really wanted to get to 4, but it wasn't having it. On my 1080, I was able to get a couple hundred megahertz on the core and memory, and the RAM I was able to get from 2400 megahertz to 2666. It wasn't high quality RAM or anything. Armed with my newfound performance, I booted up the game, and it was like deja vu. Wait, what? What is this? It was Sleeping Dogs all over again. Nothing tangible changed. If there was an increase in performance, it wasn't anything I was noticing. Sure, my benchmark scores were better, but if it didn't translate into tangible frame rates in game, then what's the point? A couple hundred points increase in Cinebench doesn't mean anything in a game. On top of all that, I had to turn up my fans to keep everything cool, so now it was blasting heat and I was annoyed by the sound. That was the moment I realized I just needed to upgrade my computer. I ended up buying that Skytech Chronos pre-built that I did a video on somewhere around here. Most people are never going to mess with overclocking, but the people that do have some cult-like mentality about it, and they think that anybody building a PC needs to shell out the extra cash for parts that overclock well. I hear it all the time when someone's reviewing some sort of pre-build that comes with a basic motherboard or a non-K series CPU, and they whine about it not being able to overclock. So what? If you're buying a pre-built, there's a good chance you don't care about overclocking, and most likely the parts in there are going to work fine for what you need. Now, a quick side note to this. If you're overclocking for the benchmark scores and competing with people and just trying to get that little extra performance just to show it, I'm all for that. That's fun, you're pushing the limits, all that kind of stuff. That's good fun. This is geared towards people making people buy extra parts just to overclock to get no tangible difference in a game. For most people, it's simply not worth it. It's going to cost you more in a couple different ways, and in the end, your system stability is going to suffer, you've just made a better space heater, and your FPS gains are going to be negligible. If I pissed you off, make sure to let me know in the comments, and let me know your experience with overclocking. Make sure to subscribe and get more hot takes like this one, and as always, thanks for watching.